Hi, this is Kat with Beadaholique, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make a triple strand climbing rope bracelet. Now this is the one that I've made before, and just to show you, it's nice and thick. This cord is about 10 millimeters around, and I have these triple strand closures right here with a really nice clasp, and I just added a little bit of embellishment by using one of our findings. So for this project, what you're going to need is you're going to need a couple of pairs of pliers because we'll be opening the clasp. You're going to need a really good pair of scissors. These are the findings that we have. We have the triple strand closures, the embellishment like I said, and this clasp, and it has the 2 jump rings attached to it. You'll also need some glue. I have here the E6000 and the super new glue, which I'll talk more about in a minute. I also have a lighter here. I have my climbing rope. I have a caliper to help me measure the millimeters. I also have a ruler, and I have some Scotch tape here. So I know it seems like a lot, but they all have uses, and I'll show you how easy it is to do this. Now let me start by showing you the climbing rope. When you purchase the climbing rope at Beadaholique.com, this is actually the size lot that you'll get. Now, I know you can tell that this is way more than what you'll need to make this one bracelet, but the good news is that if you miscut, you have plenty to try again. So this is the climbing rope. Again, like I said, it's about 10 millimeters, and it's nice and thick. You'll notice that there's a nice core, and these ends have been burned, and I'm going to show you how to do that with the lighter a little bit later just to prevent any fraying. So let's get started on making the actual bracelet. Now, the important part here is the clasp, because you're going to need to find out exactly how long the clasp is from end to end. You'll notice that it's actually quite wide. From the end to the end is about 2 inches, but you have to keep in mind, and I'm just going to go ahead and take this out because I haven't glued it yet, that there's a recess in here, and it goes until about this point. So you actually have a couple millimeters on each side that you need to sort of factor into your bracelet. The good news is that you can measure it, try it on, and then glue it, or cut more if you need to. Always err on the side of safety. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to judge that measurement, and it's just under 2 inches. But the best way to do it before you've cut your bracelet is to do it the way I'm about to show you. So go ahead and take your 2 pliers. What you're going to do is you're going to open these jump rings. Now that you'll notice that they're oval jump rings, so hold your plier down on one side and down on the other side. This will make it a little bit easier to open them. And you only want to open them as wide as you need to slip this on. And go ahead, same way, and close. And now I'm going to attach the other side, trying to grip it a little bit from the bottom if you can. Open, slip on the end, close it nice and tight. Okay, so now measuring it out, you can see that it's just over about 2.5 inches. But like I said, you have to factor in the recess. So you'll notice that I'm kind of lining it up, noticing that when I pull it taut, I have about 2 inches from about this point to this point right here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start cutting the climbing rope. Now in this video, I'm going to give you the instructions to make a 7-inch bracelet and the measurements to do so. If you want a larger or a smaller bracelet, go ahead and try to adjust the measurements kind of as I'm about to tell you. It's a little bit tricky, and again, always err on the side of safety. So if you're looking to do a 7.5-inch bracelet, cut a little bit more. So on the ruler, this will give you 7 inches here. But if you factor in the room for your clasp, you're really looking at a much larger bracelet. However, I will say this. I'm going to again take this one apart just to show you. Laying this out, you'll see what happens because I have almost an 8.5-inch bracelet here. But when I put it together, and put it on the mandrel, it'll slide down to 7 inches. So what happens is, because this is so thick, there's an inner measurement that you can't measure when you measure along a ruler. So I'm going to take this apart just to show you. And in this video, you'll just kind of see how I'm measuring this, and you'll kind of have to judge for yourself. So what I've done is it's about 6.5 inches, just a little over, just to be a little safe. So that's what I'm going to measure with my red cord here. Measure about to 6.5 here. And what I'm going to do now with the tape is I'm just going to tape off a little section just to prevent it from fraying while I do this. So there is my guide, 6.5, and just taping that off. Doesn't need to be perfect, you'll end up cutting it off anyway. So now what I'm going to do is, on the inner side of the tape is my 6.5 inch mark. I'm going to start cutting the climbing rope. And just go slow. It's very thick and it will fray just a little bit. Go ahead and cut and cut. Okay, so now I have a little bit of a fray happening here. I'm just going to kind of give it a little trim and snip off some of that. Okay, now being very careful, take your lighter and we're going to kind of just burn the ends. And if you've worked with paracord, this is kind of the same thing, where all you're doing is just sort of melting the fabric just to sort of seal in that end. Okay, so see how it's just a little burned, but now it's not going to fray. And give it a second or two and it's cool to the touch. So now that I have my cord that's about 6.5 inches, I'm going to cut one more that is identical, and then I'm going to show you what to do with the third one. So go ahead and measure out your second one. Take the tape off. There we go. And again, just give it a little hair trim. Make sure to burn this side before continuing. 6.5 inches. Grab a little piece of tape. And the tape is really there just to prevent any unnecessary fraying, but also just to kind of give you a guide. That way you're not marking it up with any sort of marker or anything. Burn the edge. And go ahead and set that one aside. Now I have two that are the same length, that are equal, and you'll notice that on the third piece here, the piece that we're going to put our finding on, we need to leave a little extra room. Now by a little, I mean just about 1/4 of an inch. You don't want it to stick out from your bracelet, but just to keep that in mind, when you are doing a bracelet like this, you're going to want to be careful of the findings that you have and how thick they are. So again, go ahead and just remove your tape that's on here. Set that aside. Please make sure that if you have tape here, you remove it before you try to burn this. Otherwise you will melt the tape to the cord, and you do not want to do that. So always make sure that you remove that tape. Burn that edge, get it to melt a little. Now we've been doing 6.5 inches. Now I'm going to do about 6 3/4 of an inch. Again, take my little piece of tape, make sure that I line it up so that I know. And that way this piece is just going to be just a little bit longer to accommodate that finding, that thick finding. All right, a little trim, take care of some of the flyaways. Go ahead and burn it. Again, please be careful when you are working with a lighter. It is a flame, it is hot. If you're under the age of 18, please do work with an adult on this. Okay, so now I have this one that's just a hair longer, and this will be the piece that'll go in the middle. So let's go ahead and add that finding. All you're gonna do now is you're just gonna slip it through, And you might need to just kind of twist it and help it through because you've burned the ends, so it'll have a little bit of a lip on it. So just go ahead and move it through. You can also take your pliers and just kind of help it through. And just get that up and under there. There you go. And you'll notice I'm just kind of twisting it. I find that helps it to kind of get through there. Now you'll notice that it came a little bit frayed, so all I'm going to do now, and because this is going to be hidden by our clasp, you'll notice there's no harm in just kind of melting that down. There we go. Okay, so now I have my centerpiece taken care of. So here are my 3 pieces, and now you'll see they actually line up a little bit better. So now the next part is to do the glue. Now, I will say this, I personally like to use the Super New Glue when I'm using a recess like this because you can kind of swirl it around and it's a little bit more liquid than the E6000. However, this is a very big well, so you will need a good amount of the Super New Glue. But today I'm actually going to show you using the E6000, and the reason I'm going to use E6000 is because inside here you want to kind of fill that up a little bit without it coming out, because you really want to give it a nice strong hold because this is very thick rope. So before we do this, what I'm going to have you do, that goes with that one, is I'm going to have you take off the clasp. Because what you're going to want to do is glue them separately so that they can dry completely before you try to put any pressure on it by putting the bracelet together. So go ahead and unscrew your E6000 and put a good size kind of line right in there. Now it might look like a lot, but you'll see that it really won't be because there's a lot of ground to cover in there. So now you're going to just slide one in and slide it to the side and just kind of hold it with your fingers. There we go. And slide the second one in. Again, just hold it with your fingers. And now the third one. And just press down. And get that glue kind of all up in there. And now I'm just going to leave that alone. And I'm going to move to the second side. Again, adding a really good size amount of glue. You can see kind of how much I've added there. Might seem like a lot, but it really isn't. And then go ahead and add your first one, trying not to disturb the other side. Add your second one, and add your third one. Go, just press it in. And this is how the bracelet will look when it's laid out longwise. And you can rotate that if it gets a little twisted. Now, I recommend letting it dry completely like this. You can also check in on it and just kind of make sure that it really gets in there nice and tight. But for the purposes today, I'm going to pretend that it's dried, and I'm going to show you how it fits on the mandrel here. So there's that, and it looks nice. And here we go, here's the test. 7 inches. Just to recap, each length was 6.5 inches, the middle length was 6 3/4 inches, and I left plenty of room for my clasp. I used E6000, and you're going to want good pliers and a really good pair of scissors to cut this. Please be careful with your lighter. And this is very easy to do. You're going to have a lot of fun. Also, I just want to show you how much cord you have left over. So you can make a couple different bracelets. If you wanted to buy a couple different colors, you can put a blue one in there. You can really mix it up. This is a really great, fun project, and I think it makes a really cool statement piece. So there you have it. That is how to use the climbing rope to make a triple strand bracelet.